Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So that's what we do on the Kid Lit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature, picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels too. Whether you're an adult reading to your inner child or connecting the young readers in your lives with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. Each week, we'll talk to a different children's literature author and discuss their books, their hopes and dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. So, grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of Kid Lit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Kid Lit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie, your host, inviting you to another weekly conversation with a children's literature author. Now, if you're listening to this in real time, you might be a little confused because it's not Friday. And no, it is not. That's because today is a special episode, a bonus episode with author Sahtinay Abaza. Why? Well, she has written 2 picture books celebrating Ramadan and Eid Moon, which last from March 10th to April 9th. So I wanted to publish this episode at the perfect time that we want to hear about and then hopefully read these beautiful, informative, touching picture books. So I am thrilled to welcome her to the podcast. Sahtinay, welcome to Kid Lit Love.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on your show.
Oh, I am too, especially because, we not only can connect future readers, whether they are adults or children, with your books, but we can do them at just the perfect time too, which is why I'm glad we're putting this out into the world as an unscheduled kind of episode. So why don't we start with the typical introductions? Can you go ahead and give listeners a little bit about yourself and your journey to writing, and particularly to these 2 picture books?
Okay, so I'm an American Syrian. My ancestors are from the North Caucasus, which is part of Russia now. It's close to Georgia and Armenia. I grew up in the United Arab Emirates, and I moved to the United States 15 years ago. I worked with software most of my career, and so I never really imagined to be a children's book author. Definitely not one who was going to write about a religious holiday. But when I moved to the States and became a mom of 2 little girls, I just fell in love with how fun and whimsical the holidays were here in the United States. The stories of Santa and the elves, they just make you want to be a kid all over again. And unfortunately, I couldn't find a fun and engaging tale to read to my girls about any of the Muslim holidays that we celebrate. And that's what inspired me to write those books.
I love that. So many authors, I am learning, have taken an untraditional, if you will, path to picture books. They just call out to them as something that they could and need to do. And I love that your girls were part of that. What a gift to them to be able to have and read and hold in their hands, as well as to share with everybody else. That's so special.
Yes. So, definitely. Just to make the holidays more fun for and exciting for my girls. That's what really was the motivation behind it. And I think also because I didn't know much about the publishing industry and how hard it was to publish a book, I decided to venture this journey. And of course, I received hundreds of rejection letters. But one rejection letter in particular stood out to me, and editor Nancy Paulson from Penguin Books, she suggested that I join SCBWI, and I didn't even know about SCBWI until then. So I became a member. I attended a lot of their workshops, conferences, signed up for the SCBWI emerging a mentorship program where I was paired with the incredible author Laurie Friedman, who had just such an incredible impact on my writing journey. The book, Looking for the Eid Moon, was actually first written in rhyme, very bad rhyme. And she encouraged me to write it in prose. And I remember I was very uncomfortable about writing about characters who talk to each other and do things together. I don't know why it felt so difficult for me. And I think she had more faith in me than I had in myself at the time. And yeah, because of her, my new and improved manuscript, it received the SCBWI Emerging Voices Award. It allowed me to secure representation by my agent, Lynette Novak from the Seymour Agency, and just motivated me to write more books.
Yeah. Well, congratulations for that, by the way. That's a wonderful honor. And, you know, I've always said that book people are the best people. And it feels like, especially in this children's literature world, this community, everyone just kind of reaches out to try to lift everyone up. And it sounds like you experienced that firsthand. And here we are now with your books being
Yes.
shared. I love it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a wonderful community. Those who write children books in particular, I mean, I don't think they do it for definitely they don't do it for the fame or the money. um, just do it because they have the best intentions at heart. And so, yeah, I'm so fortunate and so happy to be part of this community.
Yeah. Well, normally we jump into talking about each specific title that we might share on the episode, but I was hoping that first, before we did that, you could give us a little bit of context or a little bit more information for listeners that aren't as familiar with these traditions. And what I loved is that in the back of both of your books, you have an author's note that gives information, about the content. So if readers don't understand, they can. It also gives them a little sneak peek into how and why the book came to be the way it was, which I loved. But would you mind, before we talk about the specific titles, just kind of give us a quick overview of that author's note information that for readers who are unfamiliar with these holidays or unfamiliar with these traditions can better wrap their head around them when we talk about your actual titles.
Okay. Each of the books, they introduce an old Muslim tradition. With Ramadan, I think most people think of Ramadan as fasting, people not eating and drinking as long as the sun is up. But Muslims believe also that during this month, the gates to heaven are open and every act of kindness is rewarded tenfold. And so I wanted to highlight that in the story itself. What a lot of people don't know about Ramadan is that there tends to be a great sense of community during this month. People will open their homes to family, friends, and even strangers. They share their food and they break their fast together. Mosques, neighborhoods, they set up what is known as mercy tables with free food for anyone to eat. And people, they tend to donate money and to sponsor a meal for someone in need. So it's a time for self-reflection, but it's also a time to think of others. And that's what I wanted to highlight in that book. With Looking for the Eid Moon, the tradition of sighting the crescent moon, this is also an old Muslim tradition that's being carried out until today. Because Muslims, they rely on the lunar calendar, they rely on the shape of the moon to mark important holidays and dates. And so in the story, Eid will not begin until the crescent moon is spotted. And my family, we've adopted this tradition, and every year we take our girls on this little quest to find the moon.
Oh, I love it. I love it because, you started by saying, you enjoyed the holidays in the United States and some of the fun, whimsical natures of it. And that's really what the holidays are all about, are not necessarily the big, commercialized traditions, but the little things of doing something together, of something your girls are just going to remember and probably keep doing. Both books were just beautiful celebrations of those traditions with such a strong, like I could feel the love in the books, the family love, the sibling love, the parenting love, so strong in both of them.
Thank you so much. And it's true. I mean, no matter what holiday you're celebrating, in the end, they're all really at the core, they're all alike. We all want to celebrate the holidays with family and loved ones. We wear our best clothes, we exchange gifts, and we just want to create fun and memorable memories with our loved ones.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Ramadan drummer first. And this is where I wish that the podcast was on YouTube so that I could hold up these beautiful books, because even though, we're talking to you as the author, I just have to say, in both of these books, the illustrations are gorgeous and truly match the message on the page. You just feel immersed in both of them. And so kudos to you for the words, to the two different illustrators that you have. I just want to kind of convey to listeners and potential readers that the book does feel like this lovely experience. So right
Yeah.
off the bat, kudos for all those choices that both of you made.
Thank you so much. I mean, I didn't make the choice of the illustrator, but I guess I was very, very fortunate. The Ramadan drummer is illustrated by an award-winning illustrator, Dinara Mirtalipova. And I mean, her illustrations are just incredible, phenomenal. It's everything I imagined and much more. For looking for the Eid Moon, Sandra Ady also is very, very talented. Her illustrations are just like so whimsical and dreamy, and I couldn't be happier with both books.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both so beautiful. And like I said, perfectly matched, even if you don't really have too much involvement in that matching. Someone somewhere did a beautiful job pairing pairing the two together.
Yes, the
Um,
editors.
So in the Ramadan drummer, what really struck me in those illustrations that will kind of lead us into the story is, you have this contrast of night and day with the illustrations, where some of the pages, and they're just beautiful, gorgeous, glossy pages, some are bright white with maybe a little bit of gray in the background to convey the time. And then others are just these deep, beautiful, dark hues of gray and blue that really just make the colors pop. And I loved how you felt the transition. And this book shares what maybe doesn't happen now in present day, right? But the idea of that there was a drummer that at the start of the day before the sun rose would walk through the streets playing his drum so that everyone could get up and enjoy their last meal before the sun came up, right? That's kind of do you want to say more about the kind of the premise of the book?
Yeah, so the Ramadan drummer, he's a real character. He used to exist, and mainly long before the alarm clocks were invented. He would beat his drum and wake everyone up for their last meal before fast. So when Adam hears his family reminisce about the drummer who used to wake them up, he's surprised because this tradition does not exist anymore. And so, whether in a dream or in reality, Adam here that night, he wakes up to the sound of a beating drum. And he sneaks out of his house. He follows the sound up and down the dark, winding alleys until he meets the drummer. And together they walk alongside each other and they beat the drum until all the homes are lit. But as people start waking up, they start hearing whispers coming from the homes they pass by. And some of those whispers carry happy news and others sad. And that's when the drummer tells Adam that during Ramadan, every act of kindness is rewarded tenfold. And Adam takes it upon himself to do these random acts of kindness.
Yeah. Some might say I am overly emotional, but I've got to tell you that when the whispers came and I realized what he was doing, oh, I got teary. It was such a beautiful message. Like you said, I think most people just think of the fasting, but this was such a touching and tearful, at least for me, idea that really drives home exactly what this means. And
Yes.
just gave me even more appreciation and respect for it. It was just such a beautiful addition to
Oh,
the story.
yeah. And I wanted to highlight how, like, sometimes even the people around us, like, we don't know really the struggles that, people around us are facing. And so it's very important to show kindness at all times and be mindful of what we say and the actions that we do, because it could have a huge impact on other people.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a lesson I think all of us could have at any time of the year, but particularly important for, for this season as well. I don't know if I'd be able to pick a favorite if you made me choose between both of them, because I think everybody needs to read both side by side. I think you should read The Ramadan Drummer first, which is how I read it, and then move into looking for the Eid Moon, because it transitions so well. It's kind of one kicks off
Yeah.
and then the other is ending that period of time. And even though the books are similar in terms of their content, they are different, at least in my opinion, on kind of well, I shouldn't say different in the spirit. They have that same spirit of kindness and that same spirit of celebration with family and those they love. But it was a different way in, I guess, because this book was about the incredible bond between a family, yes, but
Yes.
those sisters, are they modeled after your own daughters?
They actually are, yeah. And I'm so grateful. My editor Barb McNally, she wanted those characters to look like my girls, and so my girls are so happy. Yep.
So they physically look like your girls too. Oh, that's wonderful. What a gift.
And the little one has brown hair, and yeah, they even look like them in personality as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. So just like you did for the first book, could you give us a little overview of this one for readers?
So, as I mentioned, the tradition of sighting the crescent moon is an old Muslim tradition, and it exists even until today. And so, Sarah and her younger sister Lulu, they're so excited about the Eid holidays starting, but Eid will not begin until the crescent moon is spotted. And so, they pack a pair of binoculars, a blanket, and a flashlight into their backpack, and they go onto this little adventure to find the moon. And as the night grows dark, they learn that they need to be patient, they need to show courage. But unfortunately, they still are unable to spot it. And that's because the crescent is very faint and it's hard to see. Usually, there are moon sighting committees that are responsible for this task. And so they return home feeling very disappointed. And that's when Sarah is determined to cheer her sister up. And so, I mean, the book highlights, as you said, the special bond between sisters and how the holidays spent with loved ones is always filled with magic.
Yeah. And reading more into that author's note, this is the tradition. And I guess part of me doesn't want to reveal what the big sister does as this most beautiful act of kindness for her little sister, because I want readers to kind of experience that moment on the page. But it is based on a tradition that you have in your own family, correct?
Yeah. So we usually we before Eid we'll take the girls to look for the moon. But then when because they get disappointed if they don't see it, I had to be a little bit creative, and so like Sarah, I had to come up with my our own family tradition. And yeah, during Eid, usually children, they're gifted money so that they could get a toy that they really want. And so I've incorporated that into the tradition. And I found it, it's a way to keep their spirits up if they don't see the moon. And it's a way also for them to be excited when they're little. They tend to not understand really the value of money. So
Right.
it's just a way to make the holidays more fun.
Yeah. And you just described that beautifully without actually describing it, which is really hard to do without
I
giving
know.
much of
I
a
was
metaphor.
dancing around the answer.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect. And while I was reading it, as a mom, my kids are much older. They are 19 and twins that are 17, but I couldn't help but read this book and think back to those little traditions that developed when they were little as well. They may not have been the wonderful thing that happens here, but they're little things that maybe people wouldn't know or don't typically do, but they matter so much
Yes.
to the family. And like I said, combination with your words and the illustrations, you just feel the love on the
Uh,
page. Whether you celebrate this or not, you feel it and you can connect to it as a reader no matter who or where you are. Definitely.
yeah, yes, yes. Because I mean, again, the special bond between siblings, I think it's relatable for people of all different backgrounds and faiths. Similar with the drummer as well. The theme is about kindness, and that's also what all faiths call for in the end.
So is that what you're hoping that readers will walk away with? This idea of the traditions, of course, of the holiday, but also this idea of kindness. Do you have a special hope for the books as you gift them off into families' hands?
Um, so my hope for Muslim kids, I hope that they, um, see themselves and in this exciting books that can help make the holidays fun. And it's a story that really belongs to them. And for kids who are from a non-Muslim faith, that just they enjoy learning about a holiday that they might not be familiar with. And yeah, the message of both books is to spread kindness. I think we need more of that in the world today.
Well, that message came through loud and clear, along with the messages of family and connection and community and traditions, and all of those beautiful things were just so evident across the pages. And I'm just so grateful you came onto the podcast to talk about them and so that we could share them at just the right time that people hopefully would want to read about them as well.
Yes, I mean they came at the right time, right before the holidays. So I'm really grateful for that. And thank you so much for featuring the books and for having me on your show.
Oh, you are most welcome. Now, where can listeners find you if they want to learn more about you and your books, as well as grab them for their own?
So my website is abazabooks.com, and my social media handle is at Abaza Books. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find copies of the books on Amazon, Barnes and Noble online, Books A Million online, Target, Walmart online, or you could buy them from the publishers directly, from Raycraft and Sleeping Bear Press.
Wonderful. Well, I will make sure to include links to all of those places inside of the show notes, as well as multiple places to grab a copy for themselves to make it really easy for them to click and grab in this special time.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you again for coming on to talk about these beautiful books. I hope listeners were intrigued by the little surprise we left in one of them. And just again, just appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your day.
So thank you, listeners, and I'll see you inside the next episode. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Kid Lit Love podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes at alitlife.com. And if you want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing, and everything in between to build a life you love. One more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a bookish friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of kid lit love. Thanks for listening.